parents skipped my MIT graduation to watch my sister's engagement party, only to realize later it was the day I cut them out of my life. 5 years later, the world looked different. Or maybe I finally did. That morning, I zipped up a navy dress I didn't even like and stared at myself in the hotel mirror. My name is Haley Quinn, I'm 29. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. The invitation had read, family only. I laughed when it arrived. Family, the same word that once meant obligation, now a scar that had finally healed. But my cousin's wedding wasn't something I could avoid. Not when my aunt had called crying, "Please, Haley. It would mean so much if you came." So I came. For her, not for them. As I walked into the ballroom, laughter and perfume hit me like static. Champagne glasses clinked, camera flashes sparkled, and somewhere in the middle of it I saw them. My parents. Still polished. Still pretending. Dad's hair grayer, Mom's pearls brighter. My sister stood beside them, holding a new diamond on her finger and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. They didn't notice me at first. It was almost peaceful, watching from across the room, seeing how small their world had become, a performance held together by denial. Then Mom turned. Her eyes caught mine and froze, wide with disbelief. Haley? Her lips mouthed silently. I nodded once. No wave. No smile. Just recognition. Across the ballroom, my father's laughter faltered. My sister's hand tightened around her champagne flute. 5 years of silence condensed into one electric heartbeat. I didn't go to them. I just stood still. The ghost they created, finally solid again. And from that distance, I realized the truth. They hadn't skipped my graduation. They'd forfeited my life. The ballroom smelled of roses and old money, expensive, rehearsed, and painfully familiar. My cousin's wedding had the kind of perfection my mother always craved. Coordinated dresses, gold-rimmed plates, and conversations polished to sound effortless. I stayed near the back, clutching a flute of sparkling water, invisible as ever. 5 years ago, I had stood on a different stage, holding my MIT diploma while other parents screamed with pride. Mine never came. They were too busy posing for engagement photos with my sister, the golden child. That day, I blocked their numbers. No goodbye, no drama, just silence. Now, the silence was broken by my aunt's cheerful voice. Haley, you made it, she said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like perfume and nostalgia. Your mom's been hoping to see you. Has she? I asked softly. She's been regretful, she offered, eyes darting toward the head table. My mother sat there, back straight, face stiff. My father leaned close to whisper something, and my sister, still glowing, still adored, laughed too loudly. They hadn't changed. The air around them still bent toward performance. I excused myself, walking outside to the terrace. The night air was cold but honest. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over an old text thread labeled family. Empty. No messages since the day I deleted them. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Haley, my father's voice, older, rougher, almost human. I turned slowly. 5 years, I said. That's how long it took you to notice. He swallowed hard. We thought you needed space. No, I replied quietly. You needed attention. You just couldn't share it. The music swelled inside, muffled through the glass doors. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the forgotten daughter. I felt like the one who finally left the stage. He stood there awkwardly, hands shoved in his pockets, the same posture he used when guilt crept in. Your mother wanted to reach out, he said, but she didn't know how. I tilted my head. You both managed to plan an entire engagement party on the same day I graduated MIT. I'm sure communication isn't the problem. His mouth opened, then closed again. We didn't realize how much that hurt you. I let out a quiet laugh. You didn't realize because you didn't look. Because her ring mattered more than my degree. For a moment, he seemed smaller, like the man who used to build science projects with me in the garage, back before image swallowed sincerity. You're right, he whispered. We failed you. Behind the glass, my sister appeared, radiant in her champagne dress, the kind of beauty that had always earned her applause without effort. "Dad," she called, stepping onto the terrace. Then she froze.
Oh.
Her tone dropped flat. "You came." "I was invited," I said. She smiled thinly. "By mistake, I assume." Dad sighed. "Girls, please, not tonight." I turned to her. "You look happy." "I am," she said, though her eyes betrayed exhaustion. "You still working in Boston?" "I run my own firm now," I replied. "AI consulting." Her smile faltered.
Oh.
Silence spread like fog. She looked at Dad for rescue, but he had none left to give. I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. "Don't worry, I didn't come to ruin your perfect evening. I just came to return what you left behind." I pulled out the sealed envelope I'd brought for years, unopened, and waiting for this moment. Her face paled. "What is that?" "Closure," I said, placing it in her hand. The envelope trembled in her hand. I'd sealed it 5 years ago, on the night I packed my diploma, moved out of Boston, and promised myself never to explain again. But I'd kept it, waiting for this moment. "What's inside?" she asked cautiously. "The speech I was supposed to give at graduation," I said. "The one you told Mom was a waste of time compared to your engagement toast." Her lips parted, guilt flickering for a second before pride smothered it. "Haley, that was years ago." "And I still remember every word," I interrupted, my voice calm. "I wrote about resilience, about family, about believing in people even when they don't believe in you. You should have heard the applause." Dad looked away, eyes glistening in the low terrace light. "Why bring this now?" my sister whispered. "Because you never asked what you missed. And I needed you to know that I made it without your cheers." Behind the glass, the wedding reception carried on. Music, laughter, the illusion of love. Mom appeared suddenly at the doorway, her pearls catching the light. "Haley," she said, breathless. "Your aunt said you were here. We should talk." "I think you've said enough," I replied quietly. "You just didn't realize what it cost." She reached for my arm. "Don't make a scene." I smiled faintly. "I stopped performing 5 years ago." Her grip loosened, the same way her control always did when I refused to play my role. I turned toward the ballroom, where the lights glimmered across crystal chandeliers. "Enjoy the show," I said softly. "I'm leaving early this time." I walked out into the cold night, my heels echoing against the marble floor, each step a reminder that freedom sounds nothing like applause. Outside, the parking lot glowed under string lights, wedding laughter trailing faintly through the glass doors behind me. I leaned against my car, the night air cool against my skin, and finally exhaled. 5 years of distance, and still, the ache found its way back. I thought I was past it, but there's something cruel about proximity, how a single glance can pull you into old wounds. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You didn't have to humiliate her. She's your sister." I didn't need to guess, it was Mom. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the screen before typing back. "You humiliated me first." I just finally stopped participating. I slipped the phone into my clutch and looked up at the stars. They reminded me of that night in Cambridge, standing on the MIT rooftop with classmates as the city glowed below us. Everyone's families had been there, cameras flashing, parents crying. Everyone except mine. That night, I'd walked back to my dorm, wrote, "Congratulations, you did this alone," on a sticky note, and pinned it above my desk. It stayed there for years. A voice broke my thoughts. "Haley?" It was my cousin, Maya the bride. "I saw you leave. Are you okay?" I nodded. "Just needed air." "I'm glad you came," she said softly. "They should be too." She hugged me, simple and honest, before heading back inside. For the first time all night, I smiled, not because I'd won anything, but because someone saw me without condition. The ballroom music swelled again, behind me. I wasn't going back in. Some doors, once closed, don't need reopening. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, voicemails, Mom, Dad, even my sister, all stacked one after another like echoes of a past I'd outgrown. I made coffee and let them play out on speaker while I watered the plants in my apartment. "Mom first. You embarrassed your family, Haley. Do you even understand what you've done? Dad next. You could have handled that privately. You made your mother cry. And then my sister, voice soft but venom-laced. You've always needed attention. Congrats, you got it. I shut the phone off. The plants didn't care who'd skipped my graduation. They just needed sunlight and water, simple, consistent things my family never offered. Later that afternoon, my assistant at the firm, Callie, peeked into my office. Haley, the press email about your AI project. Do you want me to forward it to you? Press email? She nodded. A feature request. MIT Alumni Network wants to highlight your work. Said they tried contacting your family for comment, but no response. The irony twisted like poetry. They hadn't celebrated my success back then, but now the world wanted to. Send it, I said, smiling. That evening, I drafted the statement myself. To every student whose achievements were met with silence, build anyway. Some applause comes late, some never comes, but your work is still worthy. When it published 2 days later, the headline read, MIT grad turned CEO inspires with message about unseen daughters. The comments poured in. Women from everywhere shared stories of being overlooked, undervalued, unseen. And for the first time, my name wasn't attached to pain. It was attached to purpose. Somewhere I knew my parents were reading it too. And silence, once my punishment, had finally become their own. The article went viral overnight. By Monday, my inbox overflowed with messages from women who said, I felt that. Professors reached out from MIT, old classmates commented on the post, and investors mentioned the feature during meetings. It wasn't fame. It was validation earned the hard way. But along with the congratulations came another email. The subject line read, Your parents reached out. It was from the journalist who'd written the story. I froze, reading the message twice. They asked for a correction. The note read, claimed they supported your journey and that your quote was taken out of context. I laughed under my breath. Of course they did. Public shame was the one language they understood. That evening, as the sun bled into the skyline, I sat on my apartment balcony with my laptop open and drafted another response. Not angry, not bitter, just true. The story is accurate. The silence happened. The lesson remains, love that demands performance isn't love, it's control. The journalist replied within minutes. Understood. Your words stand. The next morning, the article update trended again. Haley Quinn responds with quiet grace. My name sat under the phrase quiet grace, 2 words no one in my family had ever used for me. A message came in that night from an unknown number. We didn't realize what we lost until the world saw you. Mom. I stared at it for a long moment before deleting it without reply. Because she was right. They finally understood what they'd lost. But I wasn't the daughter they remembered anymore. I was the woman they helped create by never showing up. And that was their legacy, not mine. A few months later, I stood backstage at an MIT conference, the same campus I'd once walked across in a cap and gown alone. The auditorium was filled with students, alumni, and faculty. I was the keynote speaker for Women in Innovation. When they introduced me, the applause was thunderous, echoing off the walls that once held my silence. I took a deep breath and stepped into the light. I used to think success meant being seen. I began. But sometimes, the ones who should have seen you first never do. So, you build your own mirror. The room was quiet, listening, really listening. I told them about failure, resilience, and the strange freedom that comes when you stop chasing people who only love the version of you that serves them. I didn't name my parents, but everyone in that audience knew exactly who I was talking about. Afterward, students lined up to meet me, clutching notebooks, resumes, and hope. One girl with trembling hands whispered, My parents miss my graduation too. Thank you for making me feel less invisible. I smiled and said, You're not invisible. You're just waiting to stand in your own light. Later, when the hall emptied, I walked through the campus courtyard. The same wind that once carried my tears now carried peace. My phone buzzed again, another message from Mom. We're in town. Can we see you? I looked at the glowing screen for a moment, then powered the phone off. Some stories don't need sequels. Instead, I looked up at the bronze plaque on the wall, engraved with my name under Distinguished Alumni. I touched the cold metal and whispered, "You miss this too." And as the evening sun fell across the campus, I realized their absence had been the cost of my becoming.